So before we get started, I just need to explain what this video is about. Now on YouTube, a lot of coaches drip feed information, but not me. I want to be able to just give you a video that you can refer back to for everything. So I'm not expecting you to consume all of this information at once. Now I will put timestamps. So essentially that means you can go down into the description, click on the bit that you want to watch or you want to digest, and it will take you straight to that bit. So I'll timestamp all of this down below. But today we're going to run through concepts, so key concepts you must have, this setup position, takeaway, and then all the way to the top of the backswing, transition in the downswing, all the way into impacts, release, and follow through. And as well as that, I'm going to run through a fairway finder shot at the end of the video. So like I said, a hell of a lot of info. I don't expect you to consume it all at once, but without further ado, let's jump into the video. So the first key concept is to understand your dispersion. Now before filming this video, I hit 10 drives and I measured them all using the TrackMan launch monitor. Now this graphic here shows you where each one of those drives first landed relative to the middle point, so the target line that I was aiming at. And what you can see here is 6 of the drives landed right of target, 4 of the drives landed left of target. But what this should show you is it doesn't matter if you hit a draw, even if you hit a fade, hit high or low, you're always going to see a dispersion left and right of target. The second key concept is to understand strike location. So it is really important we hit the ball in the middle of the club face. The first reason for this is because of distance. So when we hit the ball, our club head is traveling, let's just say at 100 miles an hour. We want to get the best transfer of energy from the club head to the ball. This is called trampoline effect. So the more we hit it in the middle of the face, the faster it's going to spring off. The more we start to go to the edges of the face, the ball is going to ping off at a slower rate. So it's really important for efficiency and for distance, we hit the ball in the middle of the face. And the second reason is for something we call gear effect. If I hit the ball in the middle, we're going to see a relatively straight flight. The more I hit it towards the toe, going to create a draw shot or a shot that goes right to left in the air for a right-handed golfer. And the more I hit it towards the heel, the more we're going to see the ball cut or even slice away to the right. Key concept number 3 is angle of attack. So understanding, are we trying to hit down on a driver, level, or slightly up? We see some tour pros like Brooks Koepka hit down on it, and we see other golfers, especially on the LPGA tour, hit 4, 5, 6 degrees up on it. So in reality, it's more so what matches your swing. Now, I would say for most amateur golfers, hovering in the range of slightly on the way up, so a degree up to maybe 3 or 4 degrees up, is going to be best because it's going to help you optimize a little bit more for distance, but also give you some good accuracy. And key concept number 4 is to understand the difference between a driver versus an iron. So if I place these two by each other, this is a 8-iron, just for reference. You can see there is a big difference in the length of shaft. This means if I have my hands in this position at address, you can see that the actual shaft plane from the downline view is very different. An iron shaft plane is a lot steeper, a driver's is a lot flatter. This therefore means a driver wants to be swung more around us versus an iron wants to be swung a lot more up and down. So let's now talk about the driver setup position, and it is crucial that we get this right. First things first is stance width. How wide do we want to stand? Well, I want you to line up the edges of the shoulders with the insides of the ankle. Number 2 is then foot flare. So foot flare, we want to see the lead foot flared. Why? This helps us shift and turn on the way through, promotes some really nice movements. The trail foot is a little bit more subjective and up for grabs. So some golfers like to have it a little bit more square. These golfers often tend to be quite flexible in the hips, and they like the feeling of sort of resisting a little bit with that trail leg because they have a lot of flexibility. However, if you're more of a senior golfer or you're somebody who just struggles with rotation, you might want to flare that trail foot out slightly just because then it gives you just that little bit extra hip rotation and makes it a lot easier for you to turn. Now, weight distribution, very simple. Once we've done our tilts and everything, we want to be just pretty much 50-50 at address. Now, again, let's move up the body and let's talk about spine tilt and the pelvis position. Now, when the ball gets moved forwards in the stance, a lot of golfers then try and point their chest at the ball like so, because with every other club, our chest is pretty much pointing at the ball. So as a byproduct of this, what this does is it opens up my shoulders and it gets my spine tilt leaning towards the target. Now, as a byproduct of this, what then happens is this will actually promote an over-the-top swing, or if your body tries to resist that, it's then going to want to dump the club under, but again, it's going to be very, very hard to time. So what I want you to do is actually to have a little bit of a side bend, just a tiny bit, just to match the fact that your right hand is slightly lower on the club than your left. And this is also going to get you in a position to where your chest actually points slightly behind the golf ball. This is going to help you square your alignment off as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, a great drill to help you with this is grab your golf club, place it right in the center of your chest, and then with your left hand, hold it right in the middle of your sort of belt buckle pelvis area. Bend forwards and you can see this creates a tail. Now for us, we want to feel like we have that tail pointing just forwards the middle, and you can see as I do this, I'm just bumping my hips slightly towards the target and dropping my trail shoulder down. It's not a massive amount, it's a couple of degrees, if that. So that's a really nice starting position. So let's now talk about the arm position, because again, super important. Easiest way to demonstrate this is to imagine you're holding a steering wheel, turn it slightly to the right for a right-handed golfer and bend forwards. What we can see here is that the left arm is the left bicep, the front of the elbow, and the forearm bone are pointing, and the thumb are pointing roughly at a 45-degree angle. This can then allow me to get my hand into a good position of address, and my trail hand is actually, or my trail arm is actually pointing a little bit more away from me. So the bicep, the front of the elbow, and the forearm's pointing more in front of me. And then if I just relax my hand and let it rotate back in, you can see I can keep my arm in that position. Now with your arms in this position here, it's going to allow you to actually release the club. One of the issues I see is golfers go very much the other way. So if they're holding a steering wheel, they turn it to the left. This gets the right arm quite high and dominant. This is going to cause you to want to swing out to in, but also sort of leave the face open on the way through, creating steep over the top slicey strikes. So steering wheel, 45 degrees, or turn it slightly to the right. That's going to get your arms in a much better position. Let's now talk about the grip. Again, super simple. There are loads of different grip types. You have weaker grips, stronger grips, neutral grips, but the big key is that we must hold it kind of towards the bottom of the fingers. Easy way of finding this is just grab your basket of balls. Look at where my basket of balls are hanging right there, right in the bottom of the fingers. I'm able to get the V in a great position and the snuff box on my wrist on top of the grip. So if I imagine again, I'm now holding a basket, club face nice and square, you can see great position there. And it's going to be exactly the same with the trail hand. If I pick it up with the trail hand, where is it? In the fingers. My grip therefore wants to be in the fingers, and then I can have that right palm cover the left thumb with that good arm positioning, get me in a great position. And when it comes to ball position, a lot of people use the lower body as a guide, and I don't like that. Personally, I like to use the upper body because it makes more biomechanical sense. The lowest point of our swing tends to be somewhere underneath the left shoulder joint. So at address, once you're in your good body angles, position the club where the ball is somewhere underneath the left armpit. And if you want to hit up on it a little bit more, shuffle slightly this way so that it's more level with the left shoulder joint to the edge of the left shoulder. And shaft lean wise, I like to see a very neutral shaft, and if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be tiny bit leaning back. Now let's talk about this setup from the down the line view. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is posture. Posture is so important for rotation, tilting in the golf swing, and overall just having a healthy, safe, fast movement. So now I tell golfers a lot of the time, look, having somebody like a Lee Westwood posture is a lot better than having a role model of Rory or Adam Scott. Now, looking at his posture, what is just some good checkpoints? Well, I like to see with a good posture position that the armpits, the front of the knees, and the balls of the feet are all in one straight line. We have a flat lower back, a little bit around to the upper back, and the back edge of the butt is no more than a club head width outside of the heel. Balance is very even between the toes and the heels right there. Well, what I want you to do is, first of all, go stand up against the wall and stand one club head width away from it with both of your heels. Now from there, stand nice and tall, legs straight, hips level, and lower the club down so it's at belt buckle height and it's pointing at the belt buckle. I'm just going to shuffle this way slightly. Now from here, I want you to keep your legs straight and feel like you keep your hips level. You won't, but it's a feeling. And I want you to round forwards without pushing your butt back. Now from here, unlock your legs, and you can see in this position here, flat lower back, soft curve to the upper back, a little bit of knee bend, nice, safe, free and easy posture position right there. And as you can see, this gets me in a really nice position to then where I can make a nice full turn with some good tilts. Now, alignment, I like to sort of simplify it down into, look, lower body is going to be, or feet alignment is going to be more about rotation. Upper body is going to be more about controlling club path and swing direction and things like that. So match it to what you want help with. Do you want help getting left on it to help you hit a fade? Or do you want your feet slightly closed to help you get more backswing rotation? Or do you just want to go nice and neutral, feet nice and square? Upper body wise, like I said, controls more of the swing direction and club path. So if we have the shoulders more open, path and everything's going to go more to the left. If we have the shoulders more closed, we're going to see the swing be a little bit more out to in. And if we have the shoulders neutral, then the path is going to be pretty neutral. So if there's ever an arm wrestle, the shoulders will win in terms of swing direction, not the feet. Now that is literally everything you need to know when it comes to the setup with driver. I get there's a lot in there, but trust me, just use this as sort of checkpoints. Let's actually hit a golf shot because I know you guys want to see me hit some drives. So here we go. Here's my first shot of the day. Let's give this one a go. So now let's actually jump into the swing, and the first part we're going to look at is starting your golf swing and getting you all the way to the top of the backswing. Now we're going to split this into two categories. What's the body doing and what's the hands, the arms, the wrists, the club, what are they all doing? So we're going to split it into two categories. So let's start with the body motion. Now, a lot of people, they get very frozen over the golf ball. So one thing I would add is as you are getting ready to hit your shot, just keep moving in some form. Some people like to waddle left and right. Other people like to do waggles. Just keep moving. That's a really important key. But in terms of actually starting our swing, we need to kickstart it with some momentum, like jumping a car. We need to kickstart it with some momentum. Now, what we tend to find is a swing trigger is really beneficial in this situation. Now, there are loads of different swing triggers out there. You got the Rory, push off the left leg onto the right. You got sort of a forward press and go. You've got the right knee kick in and go. There's loads of different ones out there. But all of them follow the same principle. It is a pressure shift from the lead foot to the trail foot. Now, if I set up to the golf ball here, I draw lines down the edges of my hips, one on the left ear. When I do this, I like to do the Gary Player knee kick in. If I do this right here, you can see it kicks in. I've got now more pressure on the left leg, and then I push out to here where I've now got a little bit more pressure in my right leg. Let's call this 70%. But what you will also notice is actually as I do this, there is a little bit of lateral motion away from the target. And this is what we want to see. We want to control that and make it happen pretty much the first thing that we do, and then everything after that can have our momentum take us back towards the target. So if I draw these lines down, and on the edge of the left ear, you'll see a little push off the left onto the right, about 70% here. Now as I turn to the top, we'll see that the pressure actually starts to go more 50-50. My pelvis will go back towards the target, and we call this a recentering motion. So if I swing to the top now, you will see by the time I get back to the top, I'm 50-50 in the feet, left glutes touching the lead line, trail hips create a little bit of space with itself and the trail line, and my head is behind the line that I started right there. So that's what the lower body's doing. What's the upper body doing? Well, if I set up again and I draw the line on my left ear and a circle around the shoulder, what we will see is as I do this little kickoff there, you can see the left shoulders work slightly down and in. My head might have moved a tiny bit off that line. And then from there, as I continue to turn to the top, you can see the left shoulder continues to work sort of down and around. So in this position here, it's well behind the golf ball. You can see I have a subtle amount of shoulder tilt there. So I've turned my shoulders perpendicular to my spine angle. And this has gotten me in a position to where my spine angle is awesome, pelvis is in a good position, and from here I can create great body angles, great depth, great rotation, and then I can start to shallow that club and getting it into an awesome downswing position. Now, it's all well and good you knowing the concept, but let's give you a super simple drill to help you with this. So what I want you to do is grab two alignment sticks. Now I've grabbed a red alignment stick and an orange alignment stick, and I've just placed them on the inside part of my feet, just like so. Now from there, grab your golf club, place it on your shoulders, and have the butt end of the grip pointing down towards the target. Now we are going to do this little lateral motion here, and as I do that, I'm going to feel like my belt buckle is just working a tiny bit lateral towards sort of the orange alignment stick on the inside part of my trail foot. Now here's the key bit. From there, if you imagine your tailbone, which is right at the bottom of your spine, you want to feel like that tailbone, once we've done this little lateral shift, starts to turn back over or towards that red alignment stick as the left shoulder starts to turn over the orange alignment stick. Now the tailbone will not get there till way down in the downswing, but it's a good sort of reference guide once you've had that little shift off to turn the tailbone or the left glute or the right glute back towards that red alignment stick as the left shoulder turns over the orange alignment stick. Now from the down the line view, how much shoulder tilt should we have? I see people get this wrong all the time. Very simply, even do this drill, is place 2 alignment sticks about 6 to 8 feet outside of the golf ball. And as you turn back, you want to feel like you can get your shoulders pointing in that zone right there. Too flat, and we're going to see your head stand up, we're going to lose body angles. Too steep, we're going to see a lot of pressure on the back, too much left bend, and from there often you'll have to early extend. So we don't want to do either of those. So very simply, have that little lateral shift, then from there, tailbone towards the red alignment stick, left shoulder over the orange alignment stick, and we want to see the shoulders point about 6 to 8 feet outside of the golf ball. Place your hands up there, and that is going to get you in a great top of backswing position. Here's what it should look like. So let's now jump into what the arms, the hands, and the club are doing. Just to start with, let me just give you a couple of simple checkpoints. So a good takeaway checkpoint is if I do a takeaway here, we can see it shaft parallel position. From the downline view, the club head is roughly in line with my hands. The hands are over the toe line, and the club face is going to be pretty much matching my spine angle. That's a good guideline for that position. Now, if we take it up then to left arm parallel, we'll see the hands be roughly in line with the right pec muscle or edge of the right pec muscle, shaft point at or just inside ball line, and we will then see from the front on view that we'll be at about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit wider. And again, we would have started the process of recentering here. Notice also how I have really nice width, the distance between my chest and my hands. Now from there, if I carry it on all the way to the top, again, we can see some really nice width. We can see the club pretty much at 90 degrees in terms of this angle with the left arm. Maybe at or shorter parallel, depends on preferences. Left arm's running through the shoulders and right arm has a soft amount of fold there, maybe up to about 90 degrees. So for the majority of golfers out there, if we can achieve 3 main things, then we're going to be in a really nice position. And number 1, that is making sure that we can maintain really nice width to the hands and arms. Now, in an effort for golfers to try and hit the ball further, what they'll often do is they'll often try and swing this club back as far as possible. But the issue with that is often the arms will collapse, they'll become disconnected, and from there the club's going to be stuck behind you. You're actually going to slow down because you're going to have to throw angles out, and the ball flight's going to go a little bit everywhere. It's more important to work everything together, sequence the body correctly, and you will hit the ball further, more efficiently with that, versus trying to just swing the club longer. Now, the second thing is just trying to have this club track a relatively nice plane. If we can do that, you know, to where it's not going massively outside or massively inside, I get that, you know, some golfers do it, but this is just going to make it a little bit easier. Keeping that club on plane and then getting it into a nice position at the top to where maybe the club head's just behind the hands and the butt end of the grip is over the heel line. For a lot of you, is going to be a lot easier. And then the final bit is to understand that wrist set isn't necessarily setting it with the left wrist. It's only 1/3 of the amount of wrist set we see is setting it upwards with the left wrist like so. Is actually 2/3 setting it back with the right wrist, meaning that for most golfers, they need to focus a little bit more on just setting the club in the back of the trail wrist. So with that in mind, if you can do that, that is then going to get the club face in a better position here and in a better position at the top where you are quote unquote loading the trail wrist, having angle in the trail wrist. Now, here are 2 drills that are going to help you with sort of all of those things. The first one is more so focused on a little bit of width of the trail arm, but also how to load that trail wrist. And it's called the open palm drill. So set up to the golf ball just like so. Now, open up your trail hand on the grips in my right hand and take that club back to this takeaway position. I want you to feel your right arm relatively wide in this position and the palm pointing slightly down to the ground. This gets the club in a great position in the takeaway. Now turn to the top, and as you turn to the top, you feel your trail arm start to fold. Palm's going to point a little bit more to the sky, and as you can see, that gets the club in a nice loaded position at the top. Left wrist is going to be flat, and then it's going to get us into a good structure to where we can get the club coming down. So there's a really nice simple sort of swing thought then. Palm down to the ground, palm up to the sky. You can even do it with your hand closed on the grip. Palm down to the ground, palm up to the sky. It's just going to get you into some better positions. So that's the first drill. Now the second drill is going to be based on a very popular training aid called the Tour Striker training aid. An alternative is just a balloon. I've blown this up just a little bit. And what you're going to do is you're going to place this between your forearms. Now the whole purpose of this is going to prevent you from getting too armsy. Because if at any point I get too narrow, I overfold my trail arm, or I just separate my elbows out too much, you're going to start to see that balloon's going to fall out from between my elbows. elbows. So the whole purpose of this is to feel like we can keep this in there throughout the whole backswing. And watch what this does. If I keep it in there, forces me into a nice wide on plane takeaway, forces me into a nice wide position here, forces me into a nice compact backswing. Everything's going to be working together. It's going to make it so much easier to get things down on plane a lot better. Now let's see what this does to my actual swing. So as you can see, it shortens it down big time. It's going to make it very, very difficult to overswing. That was a nice, efficient drive right there. Little draw, and from there, it's going to help me in terms of just getting everything synced up and making me a more consistent driver of the golf ball. So once you've done all that, put it all together. I know there's a lot in there, but like I said, I want this to be a complete guide. Again, body motion, little shift off, recenter, get those arms working with the body. Nice turn, short arm swing. Let's see if we can get this one going down there nicely. So now let's start to talk about the transition, the downswing, and all the way to impact. Now, here's the thing. I could get super, super technical here, but I want to sort of just keep it relatively simple. And the main reason for this is because it happens so quickly. So I want to start slightly differently. So obviously we're at a great top of backswing position. We've actually already started to shift our way back towards the target. The key thing I want you guys to understand is the impact position we're trying to get back to, because that'll dictate a lot of what we're trying to do. So with a driver, we are trying to get our shaft back to a vertical position. So what does this mean? Well, we do not want to be trying to hold these angles. We are not trying to do that. And this also means that from the top, we actually need to be able to get the club down onto plane. And as we start to push out of the ground, we want to be able to release it. Again, if we never release the golf club, we're never going to A, be able to square up the face, and B, generate any sort of speed. Hence why all of the things earlier on are so important, because this then allows us to be able to get dynamic, release that club, deliver as much energy into that golf ball, hit the ball as far and as straight as possible. So we are trying to come back to a straight position with the shaft, so a nice vertical position. So what does that mean needs to happen in transition? Well, we have already started to shift back towards the target when we are recentering. So that process is already happening. And we need to continue to shift back towards the target. So what we see is, as we're getting to the top, is the pelvis will continue to shift slightly towards the target. The chest, in fact, will shift towards the target as well. Hence why we see some golfers who shift off, they do bring their head back towards that sort of lead line right there. And then from there, as we get the club down onto plane, then we start to see, as we push up with this left side, that the right bend starts to happen. So essentially, let's simplify this down. Transition, what are we seeing? We are seeing a push into the left foot here as we lower the arms onto plane. And once we get to here, we are then going to be pushing out of the left leg, and that's when the right shoulder is going to drop and we're going to release the club on the way through. So if we can understand that, as we go to the top, we're shifting and lowering the arms down onto plane, and then from there, being able to push up, and then that's going to allow us to release the club, also drop the right shoulder down. Then we can start to actually target this with some really nice, easy to do drills. And this is Rory's favorite drill, and it's just a split hands drill. So grab the club of your left hand, right hand here, and it's going to be about 50-50 on the grip and the shaft. Now the key thing is we start in this position, we're then going to turn to the top, and we're going to pump this back down to where the club head is in line or slightly behind the hands. But notice, this is what I see so many amateurs when they do this. They do this. That's not what I'm trying to see. I'm not trying to do this, because what I'm doing is I'm dropping the right side down too much. And if you do that way too much, you're going to get stuck behind you. Your arm's going to never get in front of you. You're never going to be able to release it, and you're going to be a bad driver of the golf ball. Notice how, if anything, I'm leaving my shoulders pretty level, and I'm using my right arm to get this club down in front of me here. So I'm widening the right arm. Crucial speed element. This is what's going to give us hand speed, allow you to hit the ball far. So once you've done that a couple of times, just here, boom, and you can see my shoulders are relatively level as I come back to this point. Then I grab a club, I do the same thing, I get it down. This is going to teach me to get the club down onto plane. So then when I hit a shot, we've just solved one of the biggest issues, which is swinging over the top and having a bad sequence in transition. Here's what it looks like. So once you've then done that, we should be in a position here to where we've got a load of pressure in the left leg, and if anything, we've started to gently push up out of it. The club head is slightly trailing the hands, and the hands are getting down onto plane. Now, how do we get from here into impact and then technically just all the way through into the follow through. I kind of want to do this all in one motion, and then I'll link back in sort of the releasing of the club. Well, to me, what I want golfers to feel like is that their left shoulder, their left hip and their left knee start to pull. Imagine somebody's got a piece of string attached to my left shoulder and they're up on the top of that tree there. They're actually going to pull my left shoulder up and back this way. So it's not going to go straight back that way. It's actually going to go up and back on sort of a diagonal in this fashion. So it's down here, here, and then we're going to pull up and back with that left shoulder, that left hip, that left knee. Everything's going to be pushing hard and pulling hard, getting us out of the way. Now, I saw this, I cannot remember where I saw it, it was on TikTok. It was like this fisherman looking guy, and he had like a stone in his left hand, and he was pulling it and chucking it behind him that way. And it was fantastic. It's one of the best analogies I've ever seen. So if you actually imagine that this head cover is a stone and you're down in this sort of position here, imagine you've just picked the stone up with your left hand here. I want you to pull with your left side and chuck that as far behind you as possible. That is literally, it sounds uber crazy, but that is literally the motion that is going on. We're slamming the ball down and then we're pulling up and left. And again, I know I'm doing this at quite like a vigorous rate, a fast rate, but if you literally go at a way slower speed, you're here, down, up, you are going to hit this ball really, really well as well. So I know a lot of my watchers are senior, but trust me, this still applies to you. Your forces are just going to be a little bit less than mine. Now, if I do that, I'm going to go slam it down, pull it out of the ground. Let's see what that looks like. And again, this is for the follow through and everything. And as I come through, you can see my pelvis, my glutes are going to be tucking under, getting me into a really nice position there. So it's going to be here, slam down, pull up. And as you can see there, that's really given me some speed. And what I'm going to be able to do is start to use my body efficiently and start to actually get the weight shift, get the rotation. If you actually notice, I haven't really spoken about side bend or rotation. It's kind of just happening as a byproduct of using these two dynamic motions. Number one, slamming that ball down, a medicine ball slam. Number two, the fisherman friends, whatever that was, pulling that stone and chucking it behind you that way. Use those two analogies and you're going to see so much better body movements in the downswing. Now, a drill that's going to be a little bit more user-friendly is going to give you some simpler checkpoints, and I know it's an absolute fan favorite because I've done this a few times on the channel and people have loved it, is the alignment stick chopsticks drill. So what I've done here is I've grabbed an alignment stick, placed it through my belt loops, and I've had the majority sticking out away from the target. I'm going to do the same thing with an alignment stick on my shoulders. Now, if I turn to the top, you'll also be able to see sort of the tilts of the body as you do this, which would be kind of a cool thing. And then as you do this, you're going to shift as if you're slamming that medicine ball down. You're getting your pressure back into your left leg. Now, pull that left shoulder, that left side of the body up and out, and you should be able to hit that chopsticks right as you come into impact. So just before impact, and there you go. You're going to see that shift, and then chopsticks, boom, there you go. That's a nice easy way of bringing those two other feelings together, and just that little click is going to make sure that you are doing this correctly. So that's kind of the body motion in terms of the transition and all the way into the follow through, but like I said, making sure we can realign that shaft so it's nice and vertical at impact is so important. So an exercise that I like to get golfers to do is to do what I call the stops drill. So essentially you're going to go to the top of your swing, you're going to come back to impact and stop at impact right here. And you want to be seeing that you can return the face square with your wrist nice and flat in this position, shaft vertical. If you come down, I see so many golfers come down like this. Well, if your face is way open, guess what? You're going to have to cast your ankles out on the way down. So this is why it's really important that we do drills like this, because it's sort of, A, trains our braking muscles, but B, trains our hand-eye coordination of going to the top and then coming down into this position. Now, actually, weirdly, so many golfers are trying to downcock or trying to hold angles. For myself, and I know so many top pros who think this as well, I'm actually feeling like I'm sort of throwing this club out so that I can get it back to this position. And again, it will be really interesting because you might not feel that exactly the same thing that I do, but you'll be able to develop your feelings of what it feels like to A, go to the top, come down and return that face dead square. Because so many golfers, they have different feelings. They hear one person say one thing, they try and copy it, it doesn't work. Well, guess what? That's because we don't feel the swing the same way as each other. So by having a drill where you go to the top, you come down face square, shaft vertical, great. You can then learn what it feels like to get into a good position. Then do some swings where you try and recreate that same feeling, but you actually swing through, and then you can actually hit some shots doing that motion. So for me, like I said, it feels like I'm throwing everything out, and actually for me, it feels like the club head's overtaking the hands. That's my feeling, but for a lot of you, that might be a terrible sensation. You might feel this slightly different way. So here's where we're personalizing it down to you, but here is what it looks like when I hit a driver with that feeling. Now, as we are talking about releasing the club and getting that shaft into a square position, we have to then talk about the actual release after impact. Now, here's the thing. What is an absolute non-negotiable that we want to see? Well, we want to see two things. Number one, that we have good width on the way through, meaning that our arms are extending down away from us, kind of down towards the target. And number two is that as we are doing this, is also that the butt end of the grip is pointing back towards the belt buckle. I see so many golfers are trying to rehearse these crazy hold-offs or trying to rehearse these big old flips. No. We've got to actually try and progress into a good move right here. So nice width on the way through, get everything pointing back. Now, here's where the matchup occurs. So if you're a golfer who has the toe of the club a little bit more vertical on the way down, and this is great for senior golfers or just golfers who have a slower club head speed because it allows you to hit the ball higher, you want to be feeling like on the way through, the toe of the club points more back up as if you're sort of shaking hands with somebody here. So that's a great analogy, as if you're shaking hands with somebody here. And you can see my palm is on the side of the club. And if I do it here, toes up here, and then toes up there as if I'm shaking hands with somebody. But if you're a golfer like myself who has the club head slightly down to the ground, I actually like to feel like it's a little bit more of an underhand throw on the way through, so then it matches sort of more my spine angle. So again, this is where it's a little bit sort of more feel versus real. Again, we'll see very, very similar positions with all of those golfers, but it is just the tiny adjustments in feel that are so important when it comes to the release. So if I demonstrate that from this angle, you can see if the face is a little bit more down to the ground as I come through, it's going to feel like my right palm is pointing a little bit more up to the sky, as if it's a little bit more like an underhand throw sensation. So we can sort of tone it down as to toe up to slightly open, shaking hands, face slightly down, underhand throw. Now, it doesn't matter whichever release you go for, on the way through, we will always see sort of that club recock and point back towards the ball to target line. So whether you're somebody who is more of a roll release or somebody who's a little bit more of an underhand throw release, we will still see that shaft sort of point back towards the ball to target line. And that's basically it. That's sort of the final piece when it comes to this mammoth video. I know it's a lot, but again, take which bits you need for it. And now let me hit one final shot, and then let's go into how to hit a go-to shot and how to take this to the golf course. Now, when it comes to the golf course, how do we make this work? Well, one swing thought is all you're allowed. And the way that I've always been taught swing thoughts is swing thoughts are like hats. Sometimes you don't want to wear a hat, other times you do. But if you are going to wear a hat, you only want to wear one, because if you're wearing two, you're going to look like a clown. So one swing thought, one hat on, and if you don't want a swing thought, absolutely fine, just focus on the target. Now, when it comes to routine, the key thing is that we understand that when we are hitting shots here, we are focusing on that one swing thought and the target. When we are back here behind the ball, this is where all the planning happens. This is where we're looking at wind. We're picking our targets. We understand dispersion. We understand sort of, okay, where am I trying to leave the shot? Do I want to hit driver? Do I want to hit three-wood? Do I want to hit all of these different stuff? So all your thinking is done back here. You do your practice swing back here. You do your over-exaggerated rehearsal swing. But as soon as you walk in, it's like a dance. It is very rhythmical and it happens quickly. So if I hit a shot for you here, as I walk in, watch how long it takes. So I've done my swing thoughts. I'm going to walk in. I'm picking that tree out there. I'm going to set the club behind. I'm going to open up my stance, take my grip, look at the target once. I'm still moving. Look at the target twice. Then from there, I'm going to pull the trigger. Now you can see as I did that, I was very fluid and I was talking, so arguably that would have taken a little bit longer than it normally did. I see so many golfers look like this. they are just frozen, and they're there for half a minute, they're there for 30 seconds, and you're like, they just hit the golf ball because you're getting too tense. So routine, staying relaxed, staying in good rhythm is so important when it comes to actually performing out on a golf course. Swing thoughts are like hats. Only wear one, or you don't even have to have one if you don't want one. So let's now talk about the final thing we're going through in today's video, which is a go-to driver shot. Now, what's the purpose of a go-to driver shot? This is a shot that we can hit 80–90% of the time, and we know it's going to get in play. It's going to keep us out of trouble. And obviously there's human error in there, so sometimes it might go offline, but majority of the time it's going to get us in play. Now, it's not going to fly as far as a normal drive. It might fly a little bit lower, but the main thing is it just gets us in play. Now, some people, they might go, do you know what, I just don't want to do this with a driver. My go-to shot's going to be a 3-wood, and that's absolutely fine as well. Now, often, the thing that we're looking to do here is actually increase the spin whilst lower the flight. How do we do that? Well, one of the easiest ways of doing that is simply teeing the ball down slightly lower. Now, if we tee the ball down slightly lower, we're going to find, number one, our angle of attack is going to get a little bit more level to maybe slightly down. This is going to create more spin loft, which is going to give us a little bit more spin. It's also going to get our strike location a little bit more middle to slightly lower in the face, which again, lowers the launch and gives us more spin. It just helps us get the ball in play. Now, some golfers as well might want to just get that little bit extra control on the club, so they might grip down slightly, and they might get a hair closer just to counteract that. So let's just say you're going to do that. You're going to keep ball position the same, tilts the same. All you're going to do is tee it down a little bit and just grip down slightly, and then from there it's going to be more like a sort of 3/4 swing. This is going to be a great go-to shot. Some people might want to feel like they cut it more. Some people might want to draw it. Some people might just want to hit it hard. The key with this go-to shot is that it works for you, and only you can figure this out. These are just some guidelines. So here's my one, grip down on it slightly, same ball position, just teed a little bit lower. Here's what it will look like. Now, if you have questions about today's video, drop them down below. I answer all of my questions. If you also have video requests as to more sort of complete guides that you want to see, drop them down below. I do listen. And also, if you need more one-to-one help with your game, offer online coaching on the Skills platform. The link is down in the description. If you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you back here soon.